Okay, I've had you over a barrel long enough, and I've likely barreled you over with way too much information as usual. So let's roll the barrel back in and wrap up our side tangent lecture series on barrels. Sorry, I hope you liked this a little bit. I hope you learned a little something. Either way, can you hit me up and let me know if this is worthwhile for you as a wine connoisseur? I'm not so much concerned that you've increased your trivia knowledge, but does this help you understand wine better? I hope so. I don't like to waste your time nor mine. When I present information, I'm hoping it makes you better at whatever you do in life and enjoy life more, and especially enjoy your wine life more. So let's wrap it up now. I've had enough either way to a barrel summary, which is let's look at the barrel bonuses and the barrel boguses to barrel use. Barrel bonuses, very quickly. You can roll out the barrel. I know you're tired of hearing that phrase. But durability and ease of transport was just phenomenal from the Roman Empire forward in time till just the turn of the 20th century. It really was the soup du jour of economic interchange. So were wooden boats, but again, both have gone the wayside on that. When it comes to wine making and whiskey making, barrels are porous. It breathes. Thus allows for slow oxygen integration, small amounts, which imparts richer elements and unique flavors and rounds things off in ways that can't be done in non-breathable containers. The obvious one, it has all these flavors and aromas that we really, really like. Again, not everybody, but enough people really, really like them. Oak doesn't just marry well with wood flavors to make the flavors and aromas we like, but oak helps temper out really big red wines. The addition of oxygen and tannin and certain things over time in a vessel that breathes actually chemically and physically makes big red wines palatable and enjoyable to us. That would not happen otherwise in a different container. And the added tannins and phenols and all the process I'm talking about makes for a more softened and more biologically stable product that can age well and age longer, and just in general makes wine suited for it way better. And although there are barrel alternatives, none have achieved the levels of complexity and depth that barrel aging can do to certain wines. There are costs, though. And the barrel boguses are, it's porous. Wait a minute, I thought that was a plus. It is, but it's also a negative because alcohol evaporates along with the water in your wine, and so you have product loss. Now, again, we've talked about, well, that's still kind of an added bonus because it enriches what's left, but from a straight economic standpoint, it's product loss. You know, Yellowtail don't lose no alcohol. They don't barrel age, so every bit of alcohol they got. So they're selling more product physically. So barrels being porous, alcohol evaporates. It's actually called Coolidge, the refilling of the space when evaporation occurs in barrels. Coolidge. Second bogus of barrels, they can get dirty. Nay, they can get downright infected. So, because wood is porous, that means it's not only can wine or whiskey penetrate into it, and soak out stuff, but bacteria can get in there. Critters can get in there. Viruses can get in there. And because it's a rougher surface, especially compared to stainless steel, it's much harder to clean. If something gets infected and gets in there, it's super hard to get it out. And that would be the end of your wine. So, you would use this barrel with your super expensive wine and you're aging it for a year and you've got this great juice and everything's awesome, but if the barrel's infected, oops, you just lost that batch. So that's a big risk. You don't have that risk with stainless steel. I guess you do if you don't clean well, but the risk is increased with barrels. Barrels can get dirty. Not so much with liquor production, by the way. Okay? Liquor, when it comes to bourbon, the alcohol level is so high, ain't nothing growing in there. So whiskey don't have to worry about cleanliness as much as wine does. especially because wine has repeated usage, like we said, 2 or 3 times, and in between moving stuff around, moving this batch out, another batch in, stuff floats in, and it can be problematic. And speaking of 2 or 3 times of using your barrels, that's probably its biggest limitation. It's limited usage. You're trying to gain these flavors and all this other stuff, and 3 times is about it. 3 times a lady, and the barrel is gone out to shady. It's gone somewhere else. We don't know where. Like I mentioned a couple different times, there's this great network of barrels being reused on planet Earth right now, which is fascinating. Barrels go from bourbon country to sherry country to Scotch country, and that's kind of cool. But for wine, it's like, yeah, you don't really reuse barrels. You get them new and you get your 3 uses and then it's out. And if you keep them, well, it's just a neutral container, and you got stainless steel for that. You don't need wood to be a neutral container. And now we get to the course, the biggest bogus. You only use something 2 to 3 times, and it costs $800 to $1,200 to $1,600. That gets pricey, and again, barrel alternatives have arisen because inexpensive wines can't pull that off, and it gets increasingly hard for small-scale wineries to pull that off. That's a lot of money when you are a small winery that's not producing a lot of product to begin with. And just to reinforce the cost again, here in 2017, new French barrel, depending on where it's from, which forest, and the skill of the craftsman, $1,200 to $1,600, maybe $1,700 easy. It's a lot of money. American barrels, $800 to $1,200, easy, all day long. So they have become increasingly economically not viable for inexpensive wines, small-scale wineries, and increasingly problematic for even moderately priced wines and medium-scaled wineries, because the expense and increased demand since wine production has blown up all over the place has made it tougher and tougher to get them, and more expensive. And it's going to go up. It's simply going to go up. Remember, the Coopers aren't just cranked out every day. You can't just go to college and get your Cooper degree in 2 years at a community college and go be a Cooper. These are folks that have done their craft for decades. And when you have people like that, they're not a dime a dozen. And they're hard to come by. And increasingly in today's world, people don't want to do that work. That's hard. I'd rather sit at a desk. So, you know, I won't say that the cooperage is becoming a lost art. It's not, because barrels are so expensive that people who do it are making a lot of money. And they probably have training programs to get good people like you to go become craftsmen and do this. And trust me, I don't know what you're doing at college. And hopefully you'll get a good job, and probably you'll get a good job, and maybe you'll get a good job. But if you become a Cooper, you're going to get a job. Yeah, and you'll have that job for life. Now, that was my rant about Coopers. Right? The fact is that less and less wines are going to see any time in a wood barrel. Okay? And that's why it's kind of okay, and I'm kind of cool with winemakers finding ways to fake it instead of make it in the barrel. Those barrel alternatives, I can live with them. I understand that, you know, that wine won't be as complex, will be more one-dimensional in terms of its wood elements, but it still might be a fine wine. So I'm not snooty about it. And I understand it's the way of the world. But, on the same note, like all things of quality craftsmanship, wines that have spent a lot of time in wood and some time in wood are super awesome and perhaps ultimately unfakeable. Barrels and the time that it takes to barrel age significantly enhance the flavor, aroma, color, complexity, and stability of fine wines. And it's one of the reasons we call fine wines fine wines. Some things just take time. Barrel making and barrel aging just take time. And you can't pull it off for cheap. The Chardonnays of, you know, the fancy Burgundy houses, the Montrachets, the first growth Bordeaux's, the most expensive Riojas, the big boy Barolos of Italy, the most expensive wines in the world are produced with oak barrel aging. It's not an opinion. It's true, and it's not really an option. And if you went out and looked at a list of the 50 most expensive wines, hell, if you went and found a list of the 100 most expensive wines for sale on planet Earth right this second, I'd be willing to bet 100 that they have been oak aged in some way. So the bottom line is, alternatives are fine, and not oak aged wines are fine. And, you know, fresh, light, white wines that have never seen oak. I love those too. But when it comes to certain wines, the wood is good, my friends. And it's totally fine in wine, especially the fine wines. And that's all she wrote about barrels and their role in winemaking.